record, and I wonder how I would give you permission to record.
Oh, it says it's recording.
And it says allow record. So there. Yes. Yay.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. Yes. Hello, Jayni, and welcome back. Thank you for taking the time today to meet up and talk again.
My pleasure. It's so nice to talk to you anyway. I enjoyed the other day very much, and it's just lovely to be able to share and chat and talk and contemplate all these wonderful things that we all are into.
Yes, definitely. And I want to introduce you, or you can introduce yourself really quick. We met, and I don't know if you remember me or not, we met at the TarotCon in 2016, perhaps?
Yes, in Florida. Yes.
Yes, right after the hurricane.
That's correct. It was quite an exciting time.
It was.
I'm so happy that I've met you. Of course I remember you.
Thank you. And I was really inspired by your cards, and you did a little explanation. Well, you gave us a kind of an overview of your work and how you created your Mirrors of the Soul deck. Do you want to kind of introduce yourself and tell everybody about who you are, what you do?
I don't want to go into a long story. I tend to lose myself, so catch me if I go too long. I was born in South Africa and was always very tuned into Mother Nature, spirituality, and so on. So got a calling through dreams and visions to go away, to leave South Africa, and I didn't know how that's going to ever happen because I never wanted to. So events forced me to surrender to that message, and then I landed up, when I surrendered, the path just opened up, and everything just fell in place, and my family and I landed here in Canada, and in this house, and we're still here for after 22 years here.
Oh wow.
So but a long time ago, in about 30 years ago, no, more than 30 years, 35 years ago, I started to academic training in psychology because my life fell apart, and I said, there must be more because there's things that I don't understand why it happened, and I thought I did everything right. So the universe challenged me, and I said, okay, universe, lay it on me, give me the information that I need, because there's something more that I don't get, that I haven't yet understood about people and cycles and why things happen in life. So then the floodgates opened, and I got connected to books and people and trainings in all kinds of esoteric wisdoms, astrology, numerology, tarot, you name it, color theory, everything possible. So I started reading high speed. There was like books in every room. I was just like consuming it. And eventually it all came down for me to archetypes, that archetypes are in the universe as essences that are part of our DNA, but also part of cyclical evolutionary opportunities that our consciousness, when it grasps the timing or the timing of the theme, or the theme that comes during a certain time, whatever way you want to put it, then you can actually work with that cycle and with that theme, and you wake up to new understanding, new choices to make, and you're not just stagnant in your life or stay as you are. And so my passion became to understand these archetypes deeply, very, very deeply, because one of my numerological numbers are 9, so I resonate with the moon and with the hermit and with the healer. And I'm not afraid of the darkness. Actually, the Aboriginal people here gave me the name, a woman who see in the dark, because I do understand dreams almost immediately. I've always done that throughout my life, and so I think I was meant to be taken on this path. Eventually, when I studied and meditated on the archetypes, I also at the same time started to paint watercolor paintings. And during the process, I realized that I did one painting during a year or more of contemplating one archetype. So that was totally divinely inspired, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just contemplating the archetypes and then painting. I didn't know what it was going to manifest into. And about 5 years after I painted all the paintings, because there was 9 prime archetype, distilled archetype from all the others that I investigated. I thought the number 9 is the sort of the digital number, because the cycles are all in 10, and 0 is part of the 9. So so then I looked at the paintings, and I suddenly realized, in order to preserve them, and I suddenly realized, oh my goodness, look what manifested. And I was totally surprised. So that to me was such a wonderful experience, to realize that sometimes you just have to walk the path. You just have to keep on going at it. Just be in the moment. And sometimes it's better not to know what you're doing consciously, because then you don't tune in. And so it must be very pure and very sort of spontaneous and real for it to manifest that way. But anyway, that's the story of these 9 cards, the mirrors to your soul. And so then I started to test them, and I started using them with all my clients as a psychologist in private practice, registered psychologist. So I tested. I also went to workshops and exhibits and spiritual places where there's, what do you call those places? Where they sell crystals and all those things, Yeah. I went to those kind of exhibit halls and tested it with all the people that went around, and it absolutely works every time. So very magical. I am absolutely thrilled in the fact that the archetypes and the spiritual side of it can be married with the psychology that of the personality types and the defense mechanism. So all of those are in the book that you can use to try and help yourself, because I don't see human issues as pathology. I I see it as opportunities to understand ourselves and to see the tendencies of what the archetype does in human form, which we then need to actually transform into the divine flowing through us. So the divine expression of the archetype is totally different from the human expression of the archetype. The human expression of any of the archetypes always comes in the form of a defense mechanism, a personality issue, but it's not a pathology. It's just the way we function from fear and from need. And so if you understand that, you don't see pathology, you just see opportunities to grasp yourself and what you are meant to tune in so that you can tap the divine forces through you, the divine part of the archetype through you. That's what it's meant to do. It's meant to work through you in a divine manifestation, you know. But that's another story, how to do that.
Well,
Excuse me.
no, don't worry. The archetypes then, what you said the other day, are based on your birth date number?
Well, that is a, you can calculate. So the fascinating thing is I experimented in all kinds of ways. And I also listened to a lot of people with a lot of wisdom and things that they found out. So it's not, this stuff is based on many different schools of thought and things that people discovered. So it's based on the Jungian archetypes, on the numerological wisdoms through the ages, on the I Ching, on the tarot. Did I say the tarot? On archetype, on astrology. So it's a combination and a mix of all of them. And then I would sit and write it. Write out little words that go through, with a specific archetype and say, okay, how does this fit with this school of thought or that school of thought, and show me the possible behavior. So it became quite complex, and this is why I say it is distilled, because the 9 images has the potential of being vast,
right,
you know, in its expressions, but the themes are kind of the very core basic themes that we start with, and it can be expressed in many ways. So depending on who you are as a soul and what your position is in terms of experience and enlightenment, you will experience certain archetypes in certain ways, whether it's very physical, whether it's very abstract, whether it's very symbolic. Different people experience it in different ways, and sometimes in all of those ways. So just like, for instance, Saturn, the planet Saturn represents boundaries and restriction, but it can also be lead. So you can have an encounter with lead, or you can have an encounter with feeling restricted, and it will be the same kind of archetype that you're dealing with. So that's an interesting subject, but you can calculate what you are doing, because we've got a right brain and a left brain. We sort of logical, and we also spiritual. So calculate what you're doing, what the year is that you're doing according to your birth date, but you can also use your name. And on the other hand, there's also a way that I've discovered that people show an archetype that is not calculable. So, and that archetype is shown in their body. Their chakras, their chakras, one of the chakras will be very prominent, like that. They call it the soul number or the soul archetype. There's the personality archetypes that we use. So, you know, you actually are using all the archetypes all the time. Although there's one or two or three that are most prominent, and then there's usually one that pulls you through your whole life, that you can, you know, that you experience and you can see. It can either manage and overpower your personality, or it can be your soul archetype that is driving you. For instance, for me, number 7 is not in my birth number, but it is in my body. I have a third eye prominence. I even live in a number 7 house. So 7 is, the energy is so profoundly part of me, and that is my soul number, which is I'm always looking for, I was a runner. My knees got hurt, but so it's the person who runs, who wants to explore new things, who's the entrepreneur, who's always busy investigating new fields, and never stops exploring, expanding their mind, like, and bringing the parts together. But then the number 9, for instance, the hermit, or the, as I call it, the key 9, which is the healer, is actually bringing all the parts together, and you feel that you are all encompassing. You want all the possibility, all the possible ways of being. You want to see the wholeness of that. But it also relates to the magician, the number 1, which feels that one so intensely, but starts again from scratch to invent new ways of being. But the 9 puts it all together. So what have you got any questions around that?
Sure, I actually do. Would you mind showing us a picture of that? Because I know that sometimes when you're working with people, you allow them to choose a card based on their intuitive feelings about the cards.
Yes, so we can do that. If I can share my screen.
Yep, it should be down at the bottom, and then that share.
Can you see that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that big enough or clear enough?
Yeah. On my side, it's really clear. So.
Okay, I'll make it bigger. There we go.
And you spent a full year on each one of these, like kind of channeling the is that correct?
Yes, so when you look at the cards, it's very fascinating. Actually, you can work in different ways with them. So you can decide whether you want to, I actually believe in working very slowly with the archetypes, because you want to really penetrate the depth of its meaning for you to grow. And for you to grow, it's a deep contemplation that is needed, where you go in and observe the destructive sides of that archetype and how it manifests in your life, and how to transform them with divine influence in the positive or the constructive parts of that archetype. So when you look at the cards as you see them there on the screen now, just see which one resonates with you right now. It's not a forever card. It's a card that speaks to you right now, what is about what your soul really wants to tell you right now, what you need to focus on in terms of your own healing. And so something will speak to you if you just look and you ask your inner self, your higher self, which one speaks to me right now? Not which one is pretty or which one, what colors do I like, or what form, what makes sense. No, nothing like that. Just the subtlety of the energy right now. And when you have it, just hold that card in mind and then look at what number it represents.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then we go and this is actually a little bit of it's not very clear, but there you've got an idea of how they relate. This card relates to those three archetypal energies. The one is related to the 10, to the 19. That's the numerology that comes into it. The 2 is related to the high priestess, the justice, and judgment, and so on. So you can see the first 4 are very, very interesting because they have 3 levels of energies to deal with, and then the rest have got 2. But this is all the major arcana in the pack, and I've also put the 0. So there's a controversy about the 0, but I've put the 0 with the 4s because it archetypally, when you look at mythology, there's a story that resonates with me because I'm also strongly 4. I think most 9s have got most of it. And I think the more you study them, the more you realize that you've got all the archetypes in you and that they are available to you to function. But the mythological story of the emperor is that he builds his empire and then everything breaks down and death occurs. And he's got to start again. He's got to be a full of trust and ambition to just take a step in the darkness and start the cycle again. And these cycles continue. And I'll show you how it works. Like there, I've put it in a form like that, where, for instance, let's just go to the this one. So the magician, the emperor, this is the 4, the emperor, is actually very strong, very solid, all about systems, order, function, very logical, but incredibly compassionate. The emperor is one of the most compassionate ones because the chakra is the 2nd chakra, and that is the key to all compassion. But then they experience this cycle of death, rebirth over and over in their life. Everybody with a 4 in their birth number or in their soul number, if your 2nd chakra is a prominent one for you, and there's also a body posture that shows you what that looks like. People usually look down, and their 2nd chakra are high. They move with their hips and their 2nd chakra. That's their strong point, but can also be their weak point. And you often hear when people come and tell you their life history or their story or their problem, they will usually show this theme in their life, that they had to restart life over and over again, many times, in various ways. And then that is a very prominent then it shows you that that chakra, that archetype, the champion or the director is really, really a powerful theme in their life. But this is an interesting one because it can also manifest as somebody who's codependent and needy. So it's either the person who is the prince on the white horse, or it's the damsel in distress, and she wants to be saved. And this is this archetype that express all of that. But it can be people. You know, the other day I met a person who's in the estate agency business, and she immediately resonated with this archetype. She just saw the pictures and she resonated with this one. And she's a leader, she's a builder, and you know, it's all about the structure and order for her. And so we can go through all of these, you know, like let's start with the one again. And so it's fascinating. The one, the key is very fascinating to me because, and I will say that it also resonates with the, what is that system? Oh my goodness, I investigate so many systems that are incorporated in here that I could. There's a system that also works with 9 things. Do you know what I'm talking about?
9 things?
Yeah, it's like a... I'll get the name just now. I hope. Enneagrams. Enneagrams, yeah. It also resonates because I've looked at that too, and I wanted to incorporate as many wisdom tools as possible so that it's a valid one, you know. Mm-hmm. So yes, so this key one, the multidimensional individualist, is very interesting because the key one person, the person who tunes into this archetype, is so aware of cycles. And there we've got the cycle, you know. Right. So that's how we find the correspondence between the numerology and all the other systems and the tarot and even the astrology. Because and we will, that's another story to bring that in. But the key one archetype is very, very aware also of the principles and morals, you know, how the principles in the universe works. And there's no doubt, and the magician needs to do that to be able to do his magic. And then the cycles coincide with that. And then there's an innocence of going with the flow and trusting the processes of life and the timing that they need to learn and give to others. Because when you resonate with an archetype, not only do you discover what it means in your life and to see this, the themes contribute in your life, but you are also there to show others how it works because you resonate with it. And so this is how we share with each other. And whatever our strong parts are, we share with others to remind them of that part in them. And that to me is so lovely because that's how we are whole in the end, as a community, as a society, as all the different individuals, you know, to bring our strengths together and to remind each other of what we are doing here.
Right.
So the key 2 is a very fascinating one as well. Well, all of them are fascinating. I'm just so intrigued with the energies that they present because she's all about this energy, this archetype, is all about love, and she's the connector or the nurturer. She brings people together. She's the mother. She's also the one who tunes in to deep wisdom and to the past, because that's why she's got the moon on, and she's very productive, and she's thinking of the good and the bad. You know, number 2 is actually all about connecting, but a connection between you and another, or 2 parts, like contemplating the polarities in life. And we live in a polarized world because everything is black or white. You know, we make it so from reason, or inner and outer, you and me. So we have to deal with that world as a reality, because that's what we live in. But how we deal with that, and how we tune into the truth and into others' needs, and how we balance our own needs with that, is all about the learning that we have to do with this archetype.
Well, and that's a really fascinating thing too, because it ties into what you were saying before, where each of us is a part of the whole, and we have all of these energy integrate within ourselves.
Yes.
But like you were saying, with the 2, she helps to bring that all together.
Yes. Well, she makes connections. I'm just trying to get rid of this thing. I don't know how to get rid of this thing. Oh dear. Anyway, that thing is in the way. I'll just put it there. I don't know. I'll just put it like that. So
maybe if you do presentation view.
Oh yes, okay. Let's see.
It's at the top. It's on the left-hand side. It's you can do art, or you can do presentation view, I think.
Slideshow. I don't know what I did now, but anyway, it's okay. I do presentations. Presentation. Present view. I don't know what I did now, but anyway.
Okay.
It's. Let me try again.
Okay. Maybe play from current slide. That one.
There.
There.
That's a good way to do it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we were there.
We were.
But anyway.
Yeah.
That it's okay. So would you like me to continue? I've lost my track now.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I noticed that you mentioned about the 2 was that she was the nurturing mother, and I usually associate the Empress rather than the High Priestess. So,
yes.
Can you explain a little bit about your thinking behind that distinction?
Sure. The 2 is more about service and connection.
Okay.
Truly connecting. The 3 is more about fun.
Okay.
And joy. So they both very feminine. But you know, when we are born, we discover that we are at some point when we develop, we think we are one with the mother. And the next phase of after we are one with the mother, we discover that we are separate from the mother. And that's the perfect moment that we discover the 2 archetypes. because we realize there's something outside of us and that we need to connect with.
Right.
And how do we understand, how do we distinguish between the other and ourselves? And so the two is all about making those connections in an affectionate way, with a lot of compassion. But it's also about drawing, making the associations between any two objects or people or subjects or so on. And this is why we see the Empress with the Hanged Man. Oh, no, the Empress, the High Priestess, sorry, the High Priestess now, with judgment and justice. Because if you bring those concepts together, then she's got to evaluate all the time who's speaking the truth, what are they saying. So this archetype also takes you into your inner self and distinguish the parts of yourself that you communicate with. It's all about communication. This is almost the Gemini side of investigating, of connecting and finding information. And judgment is really about understanding, as I feel it. It's like, oh, now I get it. And now we change when we are conscious of a new discovery or a new association or a new connection or a new insight. But it's all about connection. And this is why I say that it's about mothering, because it's also mothering in the sense of service. The three, the production. But anyway, that it's. I think there's two. I don't know where that other sound comes from.
I'm trying to figure that out too, because it sounds like my voice, but I'm sitting here not saying.
Yeah. I don't know what's happening there, but so the three, the Empress is more of a productive, creative. So this is new. So something new comes from the connection. And this is what productivity is about. It's like fertility. Mm-hmm. It's not mothering, it's fertility.
Okay.
And so there you see the fertile womb, and there you see the sacrifice of fertility needs sacrifice, because you are no longer important, but whatever the fertility that you are producing, the fertile creative product that you are manifesting is important. And so this is the energy of the artist, of the person who communes, who sort of bring more than one person together, or who are resourceful in terms of finding a totally new thought from the conversation. So it's very, very creative, actually. It's new. It's the new that comes from that's where the birthing process comes from.
Okay.
But it is taking care, because she's, look how fertile she is. Like, there's a lot of enjoyment, sensuality, joy itself, in hanging out with people, in manifesting, and so that's her energy. But in the negative sense, you know, we haven't spoken much about that, but there's a lot of anxiety with her because she functions in the personality as somebody that thinks that she's going to fail if she doesn't produce all the time.
Right.
And so the humanness pulls you into all kinds of strategies where you don't trust that you are already successful. You are who you are, and it's like the fear of not being that makes you overcompensate. And so that's a bit of the psychology in that one.
And just to let the people who are listening to this know, you use these cards as a means of helping people to work through their issues, both the good and bad sides of their personality and the tendencies.
Yes. So most of us, you know, all of us, not actually most of us, but every one of us are humans, as far as I know. And so we do have psychological issues. We all were born here. We all have human fears. We all have human needs. And so those drive our behavior, depending on our history and so on. But we can easily, when we understand the theme that we are connected with, we can use that theme to actually deal better with the fears and the needs in a constructive way that brings out the best of us and help us develop. You know, I think the consciousness is really, really important.
Right. And more positive coping mechanisms. So like you were saying, the 3, instead of being, I think we talked about this the other day perhaps, but
The 6?
yeah.
Right. There's the 6. Yes. Actually, there's all kinds of interesting stuff. The 3, the 6, and the 9 are very closely connected with their chakras.
Okay.
So they are one family. The 3, the 6, and the 9. There's a 9. So they are all about, the 3 is creative, the 6 is the double 3, and the 9 is a triple 3. So we can play with the numerology like that as well. So there's the 6 is all about family and togetherness and choices and again what ideas have you got that keeps you functioning from fear or addiction or you know because you are so what you are attached to become your jail. So
Right.
you be totally attached to ideas or people which actually prohibit or inhibit you to grow further. So you have to find that and this you can actually see the third element comes out of the 2, which is very much to me a symbol of the 3 as well. But this is now a higher level of the 3, or well, you know, it's dangerous to say a higher level because there's not really, one is not better than the other. It's more the phase that you have to learn at a certain time. Whether it's the 3 or the 6, it doesn't matter. You have to learn it, and it's all important. They are all part of you. Right. And then the 9 is then going back, and there we see the 3 again in contemplation of deep, deep contemplation of bringing everything together that you've learned and shining the way. But the fascinating thing about the hermit, to take it a little bit further, what I've observed and bringing it with psychology, that's the interesting part, because what I've observed with people who resonate with this archetype is that they are tired of life. They don't want to be here anymore. So it's a very subtle thing, you know, because they at the end of their journey, or they are ending a long series of lifetimes, or I don't know what it is, but it's quite fascinating to me. They hide, they try, and they become addicted to food, to television, to you know, or they want to, they become very depressed, suicidal. They don't like their bodies, they don't like this world. That's the negative side. On the positive side, when they realize who they are and what they're doing here, it's quite remarkable. They understand that they are tuning into a long series of family histories that they are part of, and that they sort of in tune with the with their ancestral conflicts and ancestral wounds that needs healing. They can see this whole pattern unfolding, and they don't quite know how to heal it sometimes. But they are also chosen as healers because they pick up energy from everyone more severely than any of the other cards or the archetypes. The others are sensitive, but this one is like a hypersensitive person, and that's why they want to get out of this life. So they feel the need to transform the negative energy into something positive, and so that makes them a healer. So it's also very powerful healers when they actually discover that in themselves.
And like with the message of the moon too is like actually making a friend of that too, instead of just like allowing it to control you or allowing your fears to, you know,
Yeah.
run the show basically. Then
I find the moon beautiful. I'm not afraid of the moon. I think the moon is all about, you have come so far, and yes, there are so many wounds and so many things that have informed you. Be conscious of it, and when you're conscious of it, you don't have to repeat the pattern,
right.
and you have the insight to put it all together in a completely new way that is enlightening for others,
Right.
you know, and yourself, of course, and for your family. So it's where the gold lies too. There's the scorpion, like it's the transformation that is so important, that we need to do with our awareness of where we come from and what has happened. The past is informative, you know, and we can't annihilate it. It's really important.
Right. And that's what a lot of people though try to do, I think, excuse me one moment, is really until they learn to accept the past and see it as like the foundation for where they are right now, and how everything has kind of come together for them. Yeah. But that's where the beauty of it comes, and taking all of that and integrating it into their
yes
life.
So say for instance, which card resonated with you today?
Well, today and the other day is the 3.
Okay, right.
And that made so much sense to me, like
But
when
it,
I looked at it.
So let's look at the 3.
Okay.
And are you aware of anything else? So the important thing is to look, not only to also observe what is going on in your life right now. So what is happening right now for you? What is the main things that are happening with you?
Well, that was what I thought was so funny, because when I looked it up, I'm really on the precipice with my business and everything, making, kind of giving the push, we'll say, to try and make it successful, and feeling like, I've been working on it for a while, and sometimes I get really frustrated with it. But I have to realize too that I have 2 children at home, one in university, and so sometimes I have to pull myself back from business success in order to pay more attention to my family, because there are times when things come up where you need to shift focus. And so that's been something that I've been struggling to kind of integrate into the way that I see and think about myself, basically,
What is do you mind to give me your birth date?
Sure. It's October 30th,
Yes.
1972.
Okay. Okay, so there we see the 3, and you see the 4, and you see the 1, and you see the 5.
Mm-hmm.
So you have what you are doing is you are in your overall life, you are on a journey towards being the teacher. But in this path of being a teacher, you are also learning a lot. You have to be a student to get there, but you are incredibly creative. You like to oscillate between being alone, working alone, and being with people. So you are both an individualist, very unique in how you see things, but you also like to share and to bring people together. Your compassion is really deep and very high, because you also have a lot of structure. You have the emperor there, and because the emperor is there will be starts and restarts in different ways. But that's good, because you are aware of the cycles in life, and you are aware that you have to be patient and allow it to unfold, because they all contribute to you eventually finding your place as a teacher. So the reason why you took addressed that one, let's just see what's happening. Oh, you're about to. You are about to change cycles next year to a very, very powerful cycle, which will give you the rewards in the long run. In 10 years, like it's a 10-year cycle, but it's the cycle of the 8, which is very powerful in terms of money and power and success. But at the moment you're doing a 7 cycle, which started in 2010, and you at the end of that cycle now. You are 15, 16. You are in the tower year. So this is a wake-up call. This is a tower year. A tower year of a 7 cycle that lasted 10 years. You're at the end of that. So chariot of putting things. This is a cycle where you put things, where you act and drive. You have a lot of driving force to put things in action that you have discovered and decided on some time ago that you've been working on. But look at that key 7 as well, but look at 3 as well. Okay. For the healing part of it. Okay. The healing practice. And let's just look at what your fear is at the moment. What is your fear, Sue?
My fear is, not being able to, just not being good at anything I've set out to be good at. So, for example, letting fear down, fear of not being a good mom, fear of not being, not, after I've taken all of this energy and put it into my work, then there's this fear of, has this all been in vain?
You're right. So it's like fear of failure.
Yeah.
Totally. So if you look at the page 29 of the little booklet, there's a little healing practice. Even though I fear failure in all my endeavors, I love and accept myself completely and choose to trust the process.
I like that. Choose to trust the process.
Right. All of the past happened and it is over. So I put that in there because sometimes we think that the past is going to repeat. And, when you have a theme, you always think that theme is going to reoccur, which it does in a strange way. But when you know that part of the theme is over, that experience is over, you are now learning something new on a different level of the same theme. Then you can move forward because it's a curiosity, it's a fascination, and you are growing. You know that you are growing. Right. All of the past happened and it is over. I forgive myself and anyone else who might have been part of the negative cycle. I accept complete healing, reparation, and transformation in every cell of my being. I accept that I am already successful. The divine in me is already successful. This is who I am. This is who I am meant to be. Right. This is, I am who I am. Right? Because this is you. Right. And so every part of you needs to be accepted in that way. So sometimes I get people, I even had somebody yesterday who was so upset because she felt that she couldn't be what was expected from her, like she had to change herself all the time. And she was quite surprised when I said to her, it's really important to observe every kind of feeling that you have and love it, not try and get rid of it. I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have today, is that we try to get rid of parts of ourselves instead of integrating and loving them. Mm-hmm. Because that's how we become whole. When you love the part that you feel scared of, that you feel is unacceptable, then that part doesn't act out anymore. It's really important to love it. It's like the divine part of you holds the part of you that is human, that is fallible. And the more you do that, the more divine light flows through you.
Right.
And so that is part of the healing process. So to me, it's so important, Sue, that we use the cards and the information and the products to become more conscious and to heal the parts that are struggling. And especially, I think healing is about working with those fears that we have.
Right.
And not let them override us.
Yeah, exactly. And I really appreciate the fact that these cards aren't superficial. So they're not meant to be a quick fix. They're not meant to be like, like, tell me, am I getting married? What is this person? It's really introspective.
Yes. Yes, I agree with you, Sue. I get exasperated when somebody says, should I be with that guy, or am I gonna like I'm in love with this guy, will we ever be together?
Right.
Oh my gosh, I struggle with those kind of things, because my darling, if he doesn't declare his love for you, then there's no hope for that relationship. You
Right.
can't force it. The important thing is, what is the real issue underlying all of this? Do you feel worthy of yourself? Are you making the right choices in men? Are you feeling unworthy of love? Where did it start? Like, go into the depth of the problem and the root of the issue, rather than just the superficial question.
Right.
So there's a time for that too, but mostly I think the roots of the issues are more important than just flitting over life.
Right. Well, and also once you get settled within yourself and you start working on yourself, like, being fulfilled through another person isn't as important as it is to, like, find a good connection. And you end up trusting yourself more, and you end up trusting your decisions more. And
Yes.
so that any kind of relationship that you enter into is at a different level almost.
Absolutely. Yes.
So you're asking different questions at that point in time. So, and it's coming into a reading or a session or a sitting with you and saying, I'm here to heal myself, so that when love does come, I don't, either throw it away or chase after it or become addicted to it, or, that I can meet it on a healthy and whole level.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So, and that's good. I think that there's, there are a lot of people who deal with the lighter, we'll call it lighter, quote unquote, side of working with the energy. But there's also a need, I think, for more people to work on the healing aspect, or working with cards as a healing tool.
Yes. You see, that's my objective. I'm not very much into predictive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I also use my astrology as a healing tool and not a predictive tool. Yeah, I can see this, I can see the aspects coming, but you don't really know how it's going to manifest. You can only see after the fact what you have experienced, and then make sense of how it informed your growth or your healing.
Right.
And what you had to go through resonates with the kind of transit, and then you understand the energy of the archetype better. So prediction is a different kettle of fish. When I started actually with tarot, when I was more 35 years ago, I did try to predict. I did use it in a predictive way.
Yeah, I started with it as a.
That's right, because it was, it gets sold to you as a predictive tool, but it never worked out. I think my whole soul is geared to go to the depth of understanding rather than prediction. And yes, there's some clues, I do get, especially when I work with some of the cards, the Lenormand. I actually, like last week I saw the coffin come up, and I thought, and messages, and then I heard that my patient died, and so, there are those indicators, but you'd never know who it's going to be, or from what source it's going to be. What is it? Is it just an ending of some phase, or is it a real person who's dying? Or, so there's so many possibilities. And I also really believe that you can change a prediction.
Oh yeah.
Totally, yes. If you have a warning of something, you can actually change it by doing things differently.
Right.
And being conscious of doing something differently to prevent the disaster from happening.
Right.
And you can also do things to improve, to make things better, So some cards are just a warning, and but it's also it's fascinating how your unconscious knows already what to prepare for, and the card is just a confirmation. To me, all the tools are confirmations of what we're busy doing. It's not the be or end all of everything.
Right.
It's what we sense inside is more important than anything else, and that it's very helpful to have a confirmation of what we are already feeling. So it's like a psychological test. In the beginning of my career, I just did all these psychological tests, and it confirmed what the person was feeling. So the cards are the same. It's like a confirmation of what you're dealing with.
Right.
And the guidance.
Oh, definitely. And it's so interesting to see how when you work with them, they're so right on point. But like you're saying, it's really pulling from, the ether and the shared information space, universe, creation, and it validating what your intuition is telling you.
Going back to the high priestess. I don't know what I did now. But anyway, I don't know what is going on here, Sue. It's got a mind of its own.
I think that you must have had something recorded in the background on one of the slides.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
just know that. So here, you know, when we tune into cards, when we say our subconscious higher self, show me what I need to know now. When we speak to the subconscious, the divine essence part of ourselves, this is who's talking. Like we're tuning into this essence.
Right.
To do that. That's what I think, because you're sort of relating to, but you also. But in. Sorry, did you say something?
No, that was, I think it was on one of the.
There's some strange things happening with this. Yeah, I think that I must have recorded something on one of these things. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Don't worry.
Okay.
But I love these cards. It's so fascinating too, because also with the Mirror of Your Soul cards, when you're looking at them, then there's different parts and different layers and different little symbols almost in the artwork that kind of, as you're allowing yourself to, you know, kind of go into the essence of the card, then as you look at different parts of it, say the number 8, the number 8. So the one to the right of the dark one in the middle. So go to the middle bottom, and yeah. So the 8, there's so many different layers in it. And so some of the things that you can see in there, I mean, I can see angel wings. I can see like, you know, echoes of Archangel Raphael with the green wings going out. I see the sun in the background, like finally finding your way through the forest, because if you look at the 7, you feel like it's a little bit of a heavier period, like a little bit like almost viper looking, you know. And then you're kind of, you see at the bottom of the 8, like this, the dissipation of the energy.
Yes.
Moving forward. So it's really interesting to like, and then mountains in the background. So it's really interesting to see what your subconscious picks up on. Exactly. In the cards, and what kind of images that brings up.
Yeah. You see, so in psychology, we used to have projective tools. And I was always fascinated with the projective tools, the Rorschach and the TAT. But it was very, it's very contrived. It's very old-fashioned and formulaic. And so it's also part of the whole idea of projection technique, to help somebody see themselves in the card that is not, that is new, that's fresh, that's not known, you know.
Right.
It's not obvious, and that it's deliberately made with subtle layers that you can see all kinds of things in it, and not just one thing. And the form is not always very obvious for that, you know, that you can make of it whatever you want. And so I love the idea that it's a projective tool to project your inner soul onto an image, or that the image resonate with your inner soul, that tells a story of an energy, of an archetypal energy. It's quite remarkable.
Right. So these, you can use these as a solitary practitioner to explore your own psyche, basically.
Absolutely. It's a self-help tool.
Okay.
Absolutely. So you can do a daily program, or you can do a weekly one. You can sit with one until you've done with it, for how long it takes you to do it. You can sit with it for a year, you can sit with it for a month, whatever works for you. If you struggle with one particular one, sit with that one and see what happens. It's fascinating. You know, you can just ask the question, you know, reveal yourself to me more in my life, and then things start to happen. Like I had many experiences in that way. Like for instance, I think it was this one, the number 3. Yes, when I contemplated her, that's why she came out so beautiful. The geisha, the movie, something about the geisha.
Ah, okay. Uh-huh.
Look at that movie. It's absolutely amazing. So the Secret Life of a Geisha or something like that. What?
Yeah, I read the book before the movie came out. It was a really, really cool and beautiful story. Yeah.
That story came when I asked for explanations about this archetype, and it is absolutely spot on. The story of the geisha, how she sacrifices her own needs to be the most beautiful, most gorgeous representation of womanhood to the people that she has to entertain.
Right.
So there's something about that archetype that is so well expressed in that movie. And so there's a different energy in each one of them. Like, you know, there's a lot of, so I will actually look up, I wrote so many stories while I did my research, and I have piles and piles and piles of written stuff about all these stories that connected with these archetypes that I actually still have to put in a book form.
Oh, nice.
And maybe you are inspiring me now to be creative and get those stories done so that they can inform people of how, you know, but there's so many possibilities that if you ask the question, what does she mean to me, or this energy, this key, reveal to me how she expresses herself in my life, then, you know, then things happen and you start to see things. You start to, books come your way, dreams come your way, people come your way, and you see, oh yeah, that's how she functions. Then the archetype becomes so alive that it's just a wondrous experience.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I love the fact that you say, you know, show me this.
Yes.
When you ask the universe to show you,
Yeah.
then it shows you. And you have to pay attention and be open to really, you know, don't just write it off as coincidence. It's synchronicity.
Sue, the teacher, this is the one, the 5. The 5 is the teacher, and she's also the scientist, and she's also the one who you resonate. Your life is unfolding into that archetype. You're learning about her, and you're discovering how to be the greatest teacher in your life in your way, your unique way. So she's the ultimate observer, and observe very, very deeply, and observe external and internal energies to put together, you know, to make theories of her observations. And I just wanted to let you know about that. And her goal is actually, you know, not to create science on only a physical level, or physiological, a sort of a concrete level, but to create, to get in touch with divine source. This is why the doves are there. The divine source of truth that comes through you, that you teach and that you understand. It's also the one who seeks meaning and purpose in life. I just thought I'd end there with that for you, because that's your special sign.
Thank you. Because I have that one. Actually, it was when I found my deck. That was the one that I had earmarked.
Yeah.
And that really resonates with me as well. Like, if I could just sit and tell you my whole, big big life purpose journey or whatever, it really ties into that. So it's very on point for me.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm so happy. You see, so it's so nice to see all of them in oneself, eh? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And I really like too the fact that you really remind us not to push away or try to cover up the parts of us that we really don't want, like the faults. Yeah. To really embrace them.
You see, in the Western culture, the medical formula is for us to cut things out and to get rid of things and to not be this and to be that, and where it's and that just creates more wounds. This is why we don't like certain people and we like others, and it creates a lot of conflict internally and also externally. And so when you want to heal, that when you had a little baby, when your children were small, when your baby cries, you don't slap him and say, right, shut up, you're not allowed to cry.
Right.
You take your baby and you hold him and you say, but you rock him and you say, let me comfort you. You don't say, you nasty, ugly child, why do you scream so much? You say, oh, come here, I love you, right? And the child stops crying. Even if a child throws a tantrum and you hold the child, they actually relax in your arms. Even if they're angry with you and you say, I understand, and you hold them, they totally are comforted and relaxed. So, and this is what we need to do with the parts in us that we don't like. We've learned to be so judgmental that we actually hurt ourselves more. Because every time you judge yourself, or every time you want to get rid of something, you're saying, you ugly thing, I want to get rid of you, you nasty, I don't like you. What do you think you're going to feel like after a while? Right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, you are capable as a human of all the possible feelings, nasty and otherwise. But if you start to love yourself, even if you just say it, even if you initially don't mean it, but try to accept and understand that part and know where it comes from, then you start to heal and become whole.
Right.
And you also don't judge others so much, because you realize that you are capable of the same feelings.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jayni, I really appreciate you taking the time today and going so in depth with your cards and explaining everything. Your work it's called Genian, GENIAN.com, is that correct?
.net.
Oh, .net.
Yes.
And I will put that in the show notes underneath of the video. And they can find your cards there, they can find your work there, they can find a lot more. And when you come out with your storybook, then they can find that there as well. So yeah, thank you again for coming. I really appreciate having you here.
Oh, you are so delightful. And I'm so happy you do this 3 thing of bringing people together and having fun and having a party.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, well, I will let you get back to your day, and I will send you a link and everything about, yes. So you take care, and thank you again.
You.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Touch.
Pardon?
Stay in touch.
I will, definitely. So I follow you on Facebook. I'm always looking at what you're up to. So
Okay. Thank you. It was delightful.
bye. Thanks.